Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Triple Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is a beautiful December 2nd, 2025. It is cold, it is rainy, it is snowy in a lot of the country, but that doesn't mean that sports stops. There are plenty of big stories to go around from the world of sports today and from over the weekend. Another wild week in the NFL. We will break all of that down tomorrow as we go over the NFL power rankings and our NFL questions. We will also take a look at college football today, Tuesday, a big college football day. We take a look at our top 25 rankings. We'll compare it to what I think the top 25 rankings of the playoff committee will be, where they're wrong and where I would make changes. We'll talk about the coaching carousel. Signing day officially tomorrow, so you're seeing a flurry of coaches move from place to place from around the country. Lots of big news in college football, but let's start off with the biggest piece of intrigue, the college football playoff. But before we get to the college football playoff, let's talk a little bit about the big story going around college right now. That's Lane Kiffin. That's him leaving LSU and going to leaving Ole Miss and going to LSU. This is a huge, huge piece of news because not only is it going to affect Ole Miss and LSU right now, but it's going to affect basically everyone in the country. Ole Miss currently going to make the playoffs. They're a lock for the playoffs. Lane Kiffin is not going to coach Ole Miss in the playoffs in this situation, which brings us back to, I think, the biggest issue with college sports, and that is, and with college football in specific, I think, and that's the calendar. The way that they decide how to do things. It overlaps with the season at really unfortunate times. These coaches are leaving right before the postseason. They finish off a regular season, and then they say, all right, I'm out. And they completely decimate the coaching roster. Lane Kiffin took every single offensive coach with him to LSU. They don't have a guy to call plays. They have nobody who can call plays. That is going to be a huge problem. Players are going to leave. You've already seen it with North Texas. When their head coach took a job at Oklahoma State before the end of the regular season, their quarterback, Drew Mestamaker, not playing anymore. He said, okay, I'm going to Oklahoma State. Sounds good to me. Let's get going, coach. This is a problem. This is a big problem. This is a problem not just with this isolated incident, but it's a problem around all of college football, right? You're going to start to see programs get poached from. All of the top G5 programs have had their head coach poached. Every single one. Alec Golsh from USF gets poached. He's no longer the head coach over there. We talked about the North Texas head coach Morris. He no longer is the head coach over there. John Summerall gets poached from Tulane. He goes to Florida, no longer the head coach. I love that hire, by the way. I think that's a huge hire. UCLA takes Bob Chesney from James Madison. These are all of the top group of 5 programs. Every single one of the coaches that were near a playoff spot in the conversation to get that group of 5 spot at any point this season, gone. No longer at their schools. And that's how it works. But these schools are still in conversation for playoff spots. James Madison, North Texas, Tulane, they're all still in conversations for playoff spots. What is this going to do? How are these teams going to respond? I know that they're letting Bob Chesney coach out the rest of the season, UCLA is, but Lane Kiffin is not coaching at Ole Miss anymore. That was a nasty breakup. A good hire, but a nasty breakup. There are good ways to handle this situation. And then there is the way that Lane Kiffin handled this situation. Getting back to Lane Kiffin here. This is a huge, huge move. He gets paid over 7 years, $91 million. Let me say that one more time. Over 7 years, he is getting paid $91 million. That is $13 million a year to coach college football. On top of that, LSU has promised a very substantial amount of NIL money to spend for Lane Kiffin. Now, LSU always going to be a mecca for football, right? You hear him throw it around all the time. We win championships. We win championships. Ole Miss hasn't won a championship since JFK was in office. Yeah. I understand that. And to a certain point, they're correct. Lane Kiffin made the right choice by going to this job. But he did not make the right choice, or Ole Miss did not make the right choice, I should say, by forcing him to leave right now. By not allowing him to coach out the best team that Ole Miss has ever had in school history, at least in the last 50 years. That is a mistake. That is a massive mistake because Ole Miss, for all we know, may never reach these heights again. They've already decided that their defensive coordinator is going to be their head coach, not their interim head coach, not their, okay, you coach the postseason coach, but their full-time head coach. That's a mistake. Ole Miss is a good enough program right now where you can attract a top G5 coach, where you can attract a top, maybe even an ACC coach. It's the SEC. Everything means more there, right? Instead, you decide to promote your defensive coordinator. That's not how Ole Miss wins football games. Their defense has been good. Maybe as an interim, it's fine. But at least look. See if you can pry somebody from a ACC school. See if you can pull what Texas A&M did, stealing a Duke head coach, right? See if you can pull a North Carolina. I mean, we don't want Bill Belichick, but see if you can steal a Tony Elliott from Virginia, coaching them to the playoffs right now, right? I bet you could. I feel pretty confident in the fact that you could steal a coach from the ACC like that if you're Ole Miss. It's an SEC program. It's a program that is guaranteed to be invited to that Super League because they're in the SEC and they've been in the playoffs recently. As long as they keep that success up. And that success doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be a playoff team every year. That success doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be winning national championships. With the playoffs expanded to 12 teams and potentially even expanding further, they extended that December 1st deadline to look at playoff expansion. They extended it to January 23rd, I believe. So after this playoffs, they will decide whether or not they want to expand it this year. I think they won't, honestly, but that depends on if Miami misses and Notre Dame gets in. That's going to make a lot of noise. It depends on if Alabama misses, if they lose this SEC championship game to Georgia. There's a lot of things still up in the air surrounding the college football playoffs, but Ole Miss could have done a better job. They really could have. I'm super disappointed by the way they handled this situation. LSU has come out and said that they would have allowed Lane Kiffin to coach Ole Miss through the rest of the postseason. But Ole Miss said, no, you either stay or you go right now. And Lane Kiffin made the right decision, and he said, all right, I'm out. And sure, the way he did it, not a good move. Not the way that I would have done it, not the way that I think he should have done it. He burned bridges on the way out. But that's what he does. That's what he does. He did that in every single one of his stops. He did it at USC very famously. Nick Saban dismissed him right before the national championship game before he went to Ole Miss famously. He did it in Tennessee. He did it with the Raiders. This is a guy that just does that. And he's a damn good coach. Let's not get that twisted. He's worth the headache that he causes because he's a damn good head coach. But the way that situation went, it rubs me and it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Lane Kiffin is going to do a lot of good things at LSU. I have no doubt about that in my mind. Lane Kiffin is going to do a lot of good things at LSU. But what he is not going to be able to do, what he will not be able to take from his resume is the way that he left Ole Miss, the way that he potentially crumbled a burgeoning program. You don't need to be, it's not only blue bloods that deserve to be good in college football. Everyone deserves a chance to be good in college football. Ole Miss deserves a chance to be a perennial powerhouse in the SEC. And I don't know if they're ever going to get that chance again with the way that he tore down that program, how their momentum has completely stopped. They've got the boosters, they've got the money. So in this era, anything can happen. But it is a little bit bad. Let's quick run around. We did a lot of the group of 5 hires that moved around. Memphis lost their head coach to Arkansas. Tulane lost their head coach to Florida. North Texas lost their head coach to Oklahoma State. JMU lost their head coach to UCLA. But there is a lot of other big coaching moves. The biggest surprise that I've seen, Jim Mora, no longer coaching UConn, gets poached by Colorado State. This one is fascinating to me. And the reason why I wanted to highlight this one a little bit more than the group of 5 teams leaving is because this one has the most future implications in it. Everybody knows the Pac-12 died a couple years ago. Poof, exploded, left us with the Pac-2, Washington State and Oregon State. They have since rebuilt the Pac-12 with mostly Mountain West teams. San Diego State, Colorado State, Boise State, etc. Right? A whole bunch of teams that's last word in their school is state. Texas State. Throw them in there, right? That's the qualification you need. West Coast Conference, last name ends in state, unless you don't play football, and then you can have Gonzaga in the Pac-12. But what's really fascinating to me here is the fact that this worked. UConn, by no means, is a bad football team. They have a lot of really great production from their quarterback, from their wide receiver, Skylar Bell. There is a lot to like about what he has done with a UConn program, that typically was a laughingstock around college football. But he has turned them into a bowl team. He has turned them into a quality team. And he has turned them into a team that beat Duke, potentially the ACC champion. Now he leaves kind of out of nowhere. This one was legitimately shocking news. I don't get a lot of news that shocks me nowadays, mostly because there's lots of stuff that leads into it. There's lots of rumors that leads into it. Oh, I'm hearing so-and-so might get traded. Oh, I'm hearing so-and-so might retire. I'm hearing so-and-so blah, blah, blah. There's lots of I'm hearing. There's lots of anonymous sources. There's a lot of sourcers out there, right? There's lots of Ian Rappaports. There's lots of Adam Schefters. There's lots of these guys, Pete Thamels, that report on everything. And if you pay attention to what they say, a lot of news won't surprise you. But this one came out of nowhere. Colorado State versus UConn. To me, they feel like equal. And maybe I'm crazy for that. Maybe I'm disrespecting Colorado State, and maybe I'm respecting the recency bias of what a UConn program has been in the last couple years a little bit too much. And you know what? I can understand those arguments. I really can. But if you're the coach that takes UConn from the depths of college football to a respectable independent program, a program that is getting looks at joining a place like the Big 12. There were reports of UConn potentially joining the Big 12 for basketball and for football. That would be huge for them. But instead, Jim Mora, on a quiet day over Thanksgiving weekend, says, "Thank you, UConn, for giving me another shot. I'm taking my talents out west to Colorado State." This one came out of nowhere. I know Colorado State's joining the Pac-12, but in my mind, the Pac-12 is just the Mountain West, and that is not a power conference. I know the Pac-12 is going to have name brand value, and that's huge because a lot of the way that we look at college football is marketing, right? I don't have time to watch every football game. You don't have time to watch every football game. Now, I do my best to watch every football game, but you don't have time to do that. I don't have time to do that. There's going to be games that we miss, inevitably. Sorry, I did not watch all of Youngstown State versus Yale, although that was a really good game. Yale with an incredible comeback last weekend in the FCS playoffs. Shout out to them. I did not watch all of those games, but I watched the important ones. I look at the highlights. I say, oh, what happened? I need to be informed on this. I go watch it. What I was not ready for is the Pac-12 coming back to relevancy. You watch what ESPN and the big networks say are going to be the best games, right? Oh, look at these top 25 matchups. Got to watch them. Got to tune in. Oh, look at these SEC matchups. Got to watch them. Got to tune in. Look at the Big Ten. Ooh, got to watch them. Got to tune in. Big playoff implications. Pac-12. Who cares? We haven't seen them with a playoff team. We haven't seen them in this new playoff era ever. And when you break them down, you compare them to what I say is the top group of 5 conference in the American. They're not better than the American. Boise State's good. Sure. Who else? Who else am I scared of in football? Who else am I scared of trying? Who else am I scared of? Utah State? I'm not scared of Utah State. I'm not really scared of Washington State or Oregon State. They're solid teams. But this is not a power conference. It's now the Power 4 and the Group of 6. That's what it is. And soon it's going to be the Super Power 2, the Power 2, and the Group of 6. And we're already starting to see that separation. And even later after that, it's going to be the Super League and the left behinds, the leftovers. You want to be in that Super League. And that's the whole thing that I think everyone in college football should be going for. They should be doing an all-in push, and they should be doing it in the next 5 years. Because in 2031, college football is going to implode and reform around a Super League that consists of SEC, Big Ten, and all of the schools that are trying to win in football by putting money into the program. Everyone else will be left behind. That's mine. That's my little conspiracy theory there. I feel very confident about that happening in 2031, 2032 when the ACC collapses. But this is a problem. But now you see Jim Mora seemingly take a conference over independent. Colorado State, I think, is just objectively a worse school than UConn. I think UConn would fund a good football school. I don't know if Colorado State would. They've got good players in the past. They have some NFL talent in the past, but I don't really know if they would fund a program enough to be in the Super League. But now that they're in the Pac-12, that conference thing is going to be really interesting. We're going to see how that matters with Notre Dame on the outside looking in, or on the inside looking out right now for the college football playoffs, but they don't have a playoff game. They don't have a conference championship game. And if Alabama loses, are they going to fall out? I don't think so. I don't think they will at all, right? I think that is kind of punishing teams for being successful in the regular season, and we've seen that precedent last year with the ACC, where SMU stayed in the college football playoffs because they were ranked there before losing their their conference championship game to Clemson. So the ACC had 2 bids last year. There's lots of ways to look at this, but the coaching search is going to continue to go crazy. We're going to see some more names, and we're going to see a trickle-down effect. We're already seeing it, right? The SEC schools have struck. They've taken all of their candidates. The Big Ten schools are now striking. They're taking all the candidates that they would like. The Pac-12 getting in on the action, too, a little bit. Shout out to the new Pac-12 reforming officially this season. Now it's time for the Group of 5. Now it's time for the ACC to go and get their guys. They're going to start to poach from the lesser Group of 5 conferences, from the CUSA, from the MAC. They're going to start to poach from the FCS level, from these teams that are winning a lot of games, right? North Dakota State just extended their head coach to avoid that happening. But South Dakota State's head coach, he's on the table. I would totally believe that. You could take a look at any of the top FCS programs. Their head coaches are going to be on the table. Maybe Delaware's head coach is on the table. He's coached them through the FBS transition. Now, maybe he goes somewhere else, right? There's a lot of places to look, a lot of coaching candidates still to hire, and we will keep you updated on every single one of them. But it's not just coaches that are on the move. It's teams as a whole. And the College Football Playoff Committee meets tonight at 7 to talk about who is in and who is out for the college football playoffs. I have my top 25, and I would tell you who I would have in and out if it came down to it on my watch. Unfortunately, and really, it's a shame, it's not on my watch because, well, the committee works in mysterious ways. I must have lost my invite in the mail. But here's what I've got for you. I have the official top 25 teams in the country. The best 25 teams at the end of the regular season. Here we go. At number 25, Georgia Tech stays in. I know they just lost, but they only lost by 7, and they lost in a neutral site to a Georgia team that looks like maybe the best team in college football right now. I'm not punishing them for that loss. I don't think there were any other teams that I was super excited to move up ahead of them, so I'm keeping them at 25 for the season that they had. Shout out to Haynes King. He deserves a lot of love for what he did this season. That defense wasn't good enough, but I am impressed by the way that they stepped up. At number 24, Tennessee enters the chat. Here they drop a few spots after a loss to Vanderbilt, a bad loss to Vanderbilt. That offense didn't quite show up. Diego Pavia ran all over them. He had a huge game, and the Tennessee team that was never quite going to make the playoffs finished about where we expected them to finish, right? 24th in my rankings here. They were 22nd in my preseason rankings. So shout out to a good Tennessee team, but not quite a playoff level team. Navy, the first group of 5 team for us here, enters at number 23. They got a big win over Memphis. Memphis, oh, how the mighty have fallen. When the first playoff committee came out, Memphis looked like they were there. They looked like they were the team that was going to take it. And then they lose a couple games. And then they lose another game. And then they lose another game. And then they lose another game. And now they just don't really stand much of a chance in this playoff race. Shout out to Navy. They're better than they were last year, and last year they were flirting with a playoff spot. Arizona at 22, they win the Territorial Cup over Arizona State. Shout out to them. Arizona's quietly played really good. You have Noah Fifita, who I'm a big fan of. I don't necessarily know if he'll translate to the NFL, but I like this Arizona team a lot. They deserve a lot of love. Another group of 5 team, Tulane here, the committee's favorite team. They lose their head coach, John Summerall. That's a tough one. He's going to be a really, really good coach for Florida. I love that hire for them. That's actually my favorite hire of this entire coaching cycle so far is John Summerall from Tulane to Florida. He's going to kill it over there. Big fan of that. Tulane, they're still good. They're still probably going to make the playoffs. They have a big game against our next team, number 20 North Texas, for the American winner. That team will make the college football playoffs. I firmly believe that. I think we'll see Tulane at number 24 in the ranking yet again. I think we'll see, I bet we'll see Tulane at 23. I bet we'll see North Texas at 24. And I bet we'll see James Madison at 25. That's my official prediction for what they're going to do with the college football rankings, because they need to prove that, hey, these are the teams that might make it. That's what we saw last week. We saw SMU go all the way up from unranked to 21. We saw a lot of those ACC teams that were fringe jump pretty high for the first time in the in the top 25. They were up pretty high, top 20, 21, 22, 23, because they needed to prove that they were playoff caliber teams if they were to compete over the group of 5 teams. So I think they're going to start to show some love to the group of 5 here, just in case a chaos scenario happens. At number 19, I've got the Michigan Wolverines. The Wolverines got pummeled for the first time since 2019 by their rivals, the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Buckeyes are the best team in football. Sorry, guys, I'm spoiling my list. They're the best team in football. I hope you don't mind me doing that. Michigan, a very good team, but they did not quite stack up. USC, 18, ahead of Michigan. They have that head-to-head victory, so they've got to go ahead of them. But this is a USC team that if they had beaten Oregon, would be in the playoffs. If not, you see where they are right now. Number 18, outside looking in. Number 17 for me is the James Madison Dukes. They also lost their head coach, Bob Chesney, yesterday. He's going to be allowed to coach out the rest of this season from UCLA, very graciously. And I appreciate that. I think that's what every single coach should be able to do. Finish coaching out their season. That's what they signed to do. They shouldn't just leave in the middle of it. Lane Kiffin. But JMU at number 17, my highest ranked group of 5 team. I think they should have that group of 5 spot if they win, but the committee isn't me, and I'm not the committee. So we'll just laugh, move on, and we will see if ACC chaos can lead us to a James Madison playoff berth. And number 16, the Who's of Virginia. 2 Virginia teams back-to-back. Never thought I would have said that, but shout out to Virginia. They're here at number 16. They're a very good football team. The way their defense has been playing recently is really impressive, and they're going to be dangerous if they get into the playoffs. At number 15, I've got Utah. Utah at number 15 here for me. A very good Utah squad. Don't get me wrong. A very good Utah squad, but they just don't quite have the resume to compete with a lot of these other guys, right? They've had two big tests. They lost to BYU and they lost to Texas Tech. They've blown everybody else out, and they're pretty clearly third place in the Big 12, but third place isn't good enough in the Big 12 to get a shot. They're not going to make it. Number 14, I've got Vanderbilt. Shout out to Vanderbilt. Big team, big squad. We love Vanderbilt. We love Diego Pavia. They're here at number 14. Number 13 is Texas, though. A massive Texas-sized win over a Texas A&M rival squad, a team that they have really dominated. Texas A&M hasn't won since 2014, but that's because they took a hiatus. That's only 3 wins in a row for Texas in that rivalry, but that was a massive win for them, and now there's some playoff buzz around them. At number 12, I've got the BYU Cougars. Oh, they're so close. They're so close. They just did not have it against Texas Tech. They really didn't. And that's the big concern. If they can show me something against Texas Tech in the championship game, I can move them up. But right now, I just can't do that. They're at number 12. If it was just pure seeding, they'd be in the playoffs, but not with the automatic bids. At number 11, shout out to Notre Dame. Notre Dame at number 11 here. They have a really good resume, but they do have a loss to Miami. And Miami, also, a very good resume. Both of those teams have very similar resumes in my eyes. I'm taking the head-to-head win. I'm moving Miami into the top 10. It's a big move, but this is the end of the regular season. You have to reshuffle here, because if you don't reshuffle here, once these conference championship games end, if Miami's not playing in them, which they're not, you can't really move them. You're just stuck where they are. So I'm moving Miami ahead of Notre Dame. They're in the top 10. Alabama at number 9. They continue to win the games. A scare in the Iron Bowl. That's just what happens when you play at Auburn. Ole Miss standing firm at number 8. Maybe I should drop them. Maybe I should. But I already dropped them a little bit, and I think number 8 is a fair spot to put them. Number 7, Oklahoma, a big win over Alabama a couple weeks ago. They continue to play good football. I'm a little concerned about the way that they're turning the ball over, but that defense is elite, and that's going to keep them in a lot of games going forward. Oregon at number 6, another big win for them. They continue to march forward. They will not play in championship weekend, which maybe might be a blessing in disguise for them because they can't fall from where they are. At number 5, Texas A&M. Let me hear it. How far would you drop Texas A&M? It was a rivalry game against a good Texas squad. They were undefeated heading into the game. It was on the road. How far would you have dropped Texas A&M? I dropped them 2 spots, and maybe that's a little bit too light on Texas A&M. Their resume probably more comparable to Alabama than it is to Oregon at this point, because really the only super tough team that they've beaten is Notre Dame, and they lost their other big test now to Texas. So there's a lot of things to look at here, but I think Texas A&M, the way that they have been playing, I'm going to keep them at number 5. At number 4, we're going with Texas Tech. Back-to-back Texas schools. Texas Tech jumps into that bye area. They are playing really great football. Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker, potentially the Heisman Trophy winner. We'll talk about that at a later date. Georgia at number 3, another SEC school. Georgia playing incredible football right now. I think they'll win the SEC. They play Alabama in a rematch game, their lone loss of the season. Georgia with a lot of momentum right now. Indiana at number 2. Curt Cignetti has coached a really good team. They've been sitting behind Ohio State practically all season long because Ohio State just doesn't lose. That's now 14 straight weeks. More than 14 weeks. It has been now, 14 weeks because they weren't number 1 at the beginning of the season. 14 weeks in a row where Ohio State is the number 1 team in the nation. Shout out to the Buckeyes. Shout out to Ohio State. But let's take a look at who is in the playoffs right now. The playoffs, if they were to start right now, we would be talking about the buys, right? And I am going to project out the winners and losers of what's it called? The the winners and losers of the championship game. Excuse me. I don't know why I was blanking on that. I apologize for that. The winners and losers of the championship games here. So we're going to start off with the teams that are getting buys. That is Ohio State, the number 1 seed, the champion of the Big Ten. The number 2 seed and the champion of the SEC, the Georgia Bulldogs, at number 2. The number 3 seed and the champion of the Big 12 is Texas Tech. And here is where we have to make a decision. I am putting Indiana here at number 4. They're probably going to fall a couple spots behind the winners if it goes the way that I expect it to. But you have an argument to push them to number 5. Maybe. No, you don't actually. I think this is pretty much set in stone how it's going to go. Indiana at number 4. Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Texas Tech 3, Indiana 4 is how I expect it to go if all of the favorites win and the top 3 conferences. But the teams that are getting their at-large bids here, Indiana's the first one. Texas A&M, a lock to make the playoffs. They're not playing right now. They're going to be in the top 12. Oregon, similar story, a lock to make the college football playoffs. They're not playing right now. They are in. Another team with a lock to make it to college football playoffs, Oklahoma, my 7 seed. They are also not playing, and they, too, are also in the college football playoff rankings right now. Ole Miss, a lock to make the college football playoffs, assuming they don't fall out with the loss of Lane Kiffin, which would be insane if they did. I'd be shocked if they did that. Ole Miss at number 8. Although I could see a future where they drop Ole Miss to make room for Miami and Notre Dame, because right now, one of those 2 teams is the first one looking out. Alabama is my 9 seed. They are not a lock. Not a lock at all. Alabama, not a lock. They need to win this game. Now, I would assume they're still in, but anything can happen in college football, and with this playoff committee, we really have no idea how they're ranking anything right now, so a loss to Georgia could have them fall. Number 10, I've got Miami. They move ahead of 1 Notre Dame, and that's going to be the big question. Is it going to be Miami, or is it going to be Notre Dame? Because I really think that is what that last non-automatic bid is going to be, because now you have 2 automatic bids. You have the winner of the Ace of the American. That's going to be Tulane in my mind, automatic qualifier. And that number 12 seed is either going to be Virginia or it's going to be James Madison. And I, a completely biased man, will be putting James Madison into this. The Dukes will make the college football playoff because Duke will beat Virginia in the ACC championship this week. That is the state of college football right now. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. I'll run through my playoffs one more time. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Georgia. Number 3, Texas Tech. Number 4, Indiana. Number 5, Texas A&M. Number 6, Oregon. Number 7, Oklahoma. Number 8, Ole Miss. Number 9, Alabama. 10 is Miami. 11 is Tulane. And 12 is JMU. Thank you, everybody, so much for sticking with me here, talking some college football with me on a beautiful and rainy Tuesday, December 12th. We will be back on Thursday. We are talking football. That's right, NFL. College football on Tuesdays. Usually Wednesdays we do the NFL, but I've got a meeting, so we're pushing it back to Thursday here. Make sure you tune in then. We'll break down the power rankings. We'll break down the NFL questions. We will break down Thursday night football, a huge matchup that sees the Lions and the Cowboys play each other. That is must-watch television. Mehrob will be here. Nolan might be here. We will talk about all of that and more when we see them. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you in 2 days from now. 48 hours. Set your calendar. I'll see you then.